Now it is said that you can never ever be best friends with your brother-in-law. I mean, closeness to the man who is a brother to the woman you married, your wife, historically has been something very difficult to pull off. The exceptions, of course, but those are exceptions. Usually, people keep a respectful distance with in-laws. But super fascinating, founding father and the first president of Kenya, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, had his confidant, chief advisor, most influential advisor, his own brother-in-law, a man called Biwott. Biwott was the brother to Jomo Kenyatta's third wife. A lady was called Grace Wanjiku. This was the third wife, and then Mama Ngina Kenyatta was the fourth. Kenyatta's first wife was Wahoo, and Kenyatta's second wife was a Mzungu. Okay? I know most of you are curious. How did they meet? 10 in the 40s, when there was racism all over the place. I'll explain. Jomo Kenyatta in those days worked somewhere as a gardener. And his wife-to-be was a housekeeper, Jijazie, in the United Kingdom, not in Kenya, in the UK. Anyway, let's take to today's topic. Biwott was a very fascinating character. Many Kenyans don't know that this is the man who was the first Kenyan African to hold a postgraduate degree. He studied mostly in the United States of America. And Bwana Koinange was always at the president's side, putting him in pole position to influence very many decisions, especially those ones made outside formal meetings, and even to influence the outcome of meetings before they happened. But as fate would have it, the only day Biwott was not at Kenyatta's side was on the day the old man passed on. For the first time in years, over 12 years, Bwana Koinange was not there when Jomo went to join his ancestors. So powerful was Biwott that when he said something, everybody assumed Jomo had said it. But perhaps even more fascinating was Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi's closest advisor for many, many years. Long before Moi became president, this man was at his side as the chief influencer and the mover and shaker. I'm of course talking about Nicholas Kipiator Kiprono Biwott. Now the first time Moi met Biwott, Biwott was a student at his primary school, Tambach Government School, in the 50s. And when Biwott finished school, he went looking for Moi, who was already in politics. And it is said that Moi held him by the hand and took him to the Ministry of Education, at that time housed in a building called Gill House. I understand it's the headquarters of forged degrees and certificates in Kenya today. Gill House in Nairobi. And while still holding Biwott's hands, introduced him to a man called Kenneth Matiba, who was a PS in the Education Ministry. And Moi asked Matiba to get a scholarship for Biwott to go and study out of the country. And it was done. Within weeks, Biwott had a passport and he was on a flight out of the country going to Australia. And Biwott finished his studies and came back to Kenya, started working for the government, and was poached by a Mzungu called Bruce Mackenzie. Now, Bruce Mackenzie was in Kenya's first cabinet. A very super fascinating character. Because you see it was established after his death that actually Bwana Mackenzie was a double foreign agent. He was working for Britain's MI6 and the dreaded Israeli intelligence Mossad at the same time. And now in retrospect, we can see why this job caused Biwott to cross paths with his former primary school teacher once again when Moi was still vice president, I believe in 1966, shortly after he had been appointed. The work of a foreign intelligence agent in an African country is as influencer, to influence decisions, to influence people in key government positions. Okay? And so, Biwott was a personal assistant to the man doing exactly this. And that is why in 1966, when Moi was appointed vice president, he quickly decided to poach Biwott from Bruce Mackenzie to be his own personal assistant so that he may be able to influence things, because Moi had no illusions about his very precarious position as a powerless vice president surrounded by many enemies, mostly from the Kiambu Mafia, who were very determined to get him out of the way so that when Jomo passed on, the presidency would remain in Kiambu County, with one of the president's close friends and aides taking over the presidency of Kenya. People like Mbiu, believe it or not, were at the very top of that list to be Kenya's president number 2. And therefore it is also very easy to understand why when Moi took over as president in 1978, Biwott was immediately his closest confidant and advisor as he desperately tried to settle in the very big shoes Jomo had left for him into the presidency of the Republic of Kenya. And indeed that is why Biwott was one of the 3 people who rode in the presidential limousine, whom Kenyans nicknamed Moi's 3 wives. Of course it was Nicholas Biwott, Charles Njonjo, and Gigi Karaoke, all deceased. And it is also easy to see how Biwott was able to outmaneuver the other very experienced politicians, Charles Njonjo, who had been in government for long, since independence, and Gigi Karaoke, another man who really understood politics. It is easy to see how Biwott was able to outmaneuver them away from Moi's side, so that he remained the one and only chief Moi influencer. But there's a problem that many Kenyans have not been able to recognize to this day. And that problem had to do with character. You see, in the intelligence community, it is all about achieving objectives. Not much thought is ever given to the morality of the methods. Not much thought is ever given to how brutal those methods are. In the intelligence community, the end always justifies the means. You're not allowed to think of anything else. And this is why there was a clash of characters, because Moi's tender character, full of empathy, was on a collision course with Biwott's character, and skills honed working for an intelligence officer for a number of years, Bwana Bruce Mackenzie. But still, the influence of Biwott on the Moi presidency cannot be understated. It was huge. For instance, it was Biwott who introduced Daniel Toroitich arap Moi to the principles of a very famous political philosopher, Niccolo Machiavelli. It is said that Biwott got somebody else to summarize the key points of Machiavelli's principles in a small notebook. And it is said that Moi often referred to this notebook as his blueprint to rule Kenya. And in my opinion, this small notebook played a key role, a very major role, in keeping Moi in power for 24 long years as the longest ever serving president of the country called Kenya. A record I believe will never be broken to the end of time. Especially because our constitution these days does not allow a presidency to extend 2 terms, which is just a mere 10 years, less than half of what Moi served. Now, I'll not bore you with political philosophy, but please allow me to quote Niccolo Machiavelli's most famous quote from his work, The Prince, which is really a guidebook on how to handle power, how to get power, and how to stay in power. And that quote was, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." Let me repeat. It is better to be feared than loved if you can't be both. Now, if you're to look at what Moi tried to do throughout his presidency, this particular quote from legend Niccolo Machiavelli stands out, springs out from the page, and explains a lot of things about the Moi presidency. Now, very quickly before I go, the truth is, history tells us, when things are chaotic, there are very many opportunities for people to change their lives. So that when the chaos are over, there is a new order of things. Those ones who did not have, those who are small, become the big people. And it's all about preparing and understanding the situation, understanding the chaos, and how you can thrive in those chaos. And this is why I'll continue to highly recommend my detailed documentary on this issue. It will help you even if you're a very experienced businessman. It will help you if you're a rookie. You don't understand what business is. You're operating on fairy tales that you've read in books. Because business is tough. It's not an easy thing. It will help all of us. Why? Because it analyzes the coming chaos and shows you where the loopholes are going to be to make a killing. Instead of complaining, locking yourself up in your bedroom and crying because you can no longer afford the school fees of your children, your dear children, you can no longer afford house rent. Don't do that. Instead, take a deep breath, understand what is going on, and leap and take advantage of the opportunities. In 2019, I was led into producing a set of videos on how to prosper in a dead economy, such as the one we're facing now. Because when things are the way they are now, uncertainty, economy kwisha maneno, it is also a time of great opportunity. Now, when I produced those videos, there was very little response from members of this channel. Things were still good then. It was difficult to see such a bleak future. It was difficult to believe whether anything like that would ever happen. But here we are now. And therefore I'm offering these videos once again. And if you're a member of my weekly intelligence briefings, you can get it at the amazing offer you see on your screens right now. The 3 sets of videos plus the 2 books, which I'm very confident will take you through what is coming. Because it is coming. Indeed, it is already here. If you're not a member, you'll have to take it at the price which was set then, which was $54. It'll still be $54. You can see details on your screens right now. I'm afraid the offer for members of WIB is very limited to 3 or 4 days, at only $13.95, or Kenya shillings 1,395. My message to you, my dear friends, because I really care, is that even if you don't take this offer, please prepare yourselves. It is terribly important that you prepare yourselves. God remember mercy for Kenya. God help the nation called Kenya. Weekly Intelligence Briefings number 109. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.